Hello and welcome back to another book video. Today's outfit is giving librarian. You should trust my book opinions. Today we're going to be tier ranking every romantasy series I have ever read. And I had to do series. If I did each book, we would be here for forever because I find romantasy series are often so long. Some of these series have like 7-8 books in them. I would say that I am someone who loves romantasy books, but I didn't always. I only started reading romantasy about 2 years ago, and it all started with ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I had heard so many people on the internet talking about this book, and I had given up fantasy like a decade ago, at least. Fantasy just felt kind of lame to me. I don't know why. Since reading ACOTAR, I have fell headfirst down the rabbit hole, and I am a fantasy lover, a romantasy lover. Guys, I need to preface something here. I'm probably gonna make so many of you mad with this video because so many of these books are like viral book talk sensations. People love them, people adore them, they're America's golden child, and I did not like some of them. And this might make you a little mad. So I'm just here to remind you that reading is subjective, liking a book is subjective. I am not saying that these are objectively, am I saying they're objectively bad books? You can like a book that I don't like, and I cannot like a book that you like, and that's okay. That's okay. That's fine. We're good. No hard feelings, right? No hard feelings before we get into this. Okay? Don't get mad at me. My ranking scale, did we need to do 7? Yes. I'm used to rating books on a 5-star scale. I don't know. I needed more wiggle room, more nuance to chat about this. My absolute best, my top tier is going to be 6 out of 5 stars. These books are perfection. I would change nothing. I'm eating them up. Those books are like the ultimate best books I've ever read in my entire life, and you should read them too. The next I'm gonna do Screaming, Crying, Throwing Up. These books are so good. Again, no complaints, but are they my absolute favorite? No. Then we're gonna do No Complaints, JK, maybe a few. These books are good, but there are definitely things that I would change about them. And then we have Mid. Explains itself. Not good, not bad, mid. And then we have a tier dedicated to the forgotten books. I forgot that you existed because there are so many books that when I was making this, I was like, oh my god, what the heck? I don't remember anything about you. You are that forgettable. And honestly, a forgettable book is not a good book in my opinion. And then we have Shoulda DNF'd. I should not have finished this. You know, it was not a good book. It was not for me. I should have given up, but I do not like to DNF books. And then finally we have Kindling. We have books that I think are trash, honestly. Should we start ranking them? Okay, we have a lot here, and we're gonna start off strong with the first romantasy series I ever read, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses. This is such a good series in my books. I 100% credit it for getting me back into reading fantasy books. I will say that 3 books in the series are really good in my opinion, 2 not so much. And since we're going to be ranking them as a whole, we need to keep that in mind. We're ranking the whole series. I feel like so many people love this series. We are going to rank it. Screaming, Crying, Throwing Up. Also, I think that Sarah J. Maas is a pretty clever writer. I am very excited for the rest. Where are they, Sarah? Why is it taking so long? Feels like a huge hiatus between A Court of Silver Flames and like now. Please, can we just have like the next book? Thanks. The Cruel Prince. So this is a YA, very like whimsical fairy tale series. There's 3 books in this series. It's kind of a bully romance though. I don't really care for a bully romance, I will say. And also, he has a tail. I can't get past that. Also, the last book in the series was only a 3-star for me. I'm gonna say it's mid. It is not a series that I'm ever like, oh my gosh, you should read this. This is not one that I am drawn to. I know a lot of other people are, but I'm not. From Blood and Ash. I don't know why this book, this series, makes me viscerally angry. It makes me mad when I see this series in public. Like, actually angry. I was looking at my reviews and I don't know why that is. So I read the first 3 books in the series and I liked the first 2. I think I gave the first book in the series 5 stars. Book 3 though? I don't know. But something about it made me so mad. I absolutely hated it, despise it with my entire being, and I don't know why. Like, I can't think of one specific reason why I absolutely hate this book, but I do. So for that reason, it is going to Kindling, because like, it makes me so mad. Like, I don't know why I have these like super like hate-filled emotions attached to this series, but I do, and I will not be reading anything else in it. So we will also keep that in mind when we're ranking books. Did I finish the series? Would I finish the series? That's important because a lot of these are long series. Couldn't even tell you how many books are in that series, honestly, because I think it's a bit of a monster. And that's another complaint I have about romantasy books and fantasy books in general. There is not many storylines that need more than 3 books. Let's be real. Why are they such monsters? Why are there so many books in romantasy series? Like, it's honestly a bit of overkill. Is it a bit of a cash grab? Maybe. Okay, next we have Guild. So this is the Plated Prisoner series. So it is an adult, spicy romantasy series based off of King Midas and his gold touch. I have read 4 books in this series. Again, it's long. I don't think it needs to be this many. I don't think the series needs to be this many books, honestly. Will I finish it? I'm not sure. So for that reason, I'm gonna say that it's mid. I mean, every once in a while, I'm like, oh, why don't I read another book in that series? But it's not calling to me. It doesn't keep me up at night wondering what happens next to these characters. Take it or leave it. It's pretty middle of the road for me. I will say, though, the whole King Midas Gold Touch thing is a little more unique than some romantasy books. A lot of them are kind of a little lather, rinse, repeat, and a little too similar. Speaking of books that are similar to other books that I have read, Light Lark. I have read the first book, Light Lark. That's it. I want to say that there's 3 books in the series now, maybe 4. Will I read the rest? I honestly don't know. So the first book, I did not really like it that much. I think I gave it 2 stars, which is a pretty low rating. Some of the plot points and stuff were pointless, like the whole games thing. It felt a little pointless, felt a little redundant, felt like you didn't flush out your thoughts enough on this series. This seems really mean. I don't want to be mean. We're leaning towards the bottom. Is it I should have DNF'd it, or is it Kindling? I'm gonna say I should have DNF'd. Song of Achilles. I couldn't decide if this was a romantasy book or not. I mean, it's fantasy, it's like Greek gods and all of that, and it is a romance. This is one of my god tier books. It is going to go 6 stars. Oh my gosh. This is a book that I think about regularly, that emotionally destroyed me, that had me sobbing, crying, throwing up. But I'm gonna say it god tier. Like, everybody should read this book. It's a Greek mythology retelling of Achilles. So, so good. Go read it, please. Also, it's gay. There's not enough gay books on this list. Once Upon a Broken Heart. First 2 books in this series. Absolutely loved them. Oh my gosh, I thought they were amazing. So this is a YA series. I haven't actually read the Caraval trilogy, which it's like the same universe. I just read these because they were so highly recommended, but I didn't like the ending. I'm gonna say it's mid. So we have Malice, and Malice is a Sleeping Beauty retelling, but it's sapphic and it's from the villain's point of view. I liked it. It's a duology, but I haven't got around to reading the second book or buying the second book, but I do recommend it to people. When people ask specifically for sapphic fantasy books, I recommend it. So I'm gonna say no complaints, K, maybe a few, because I mean, there's some things I'd change, but it's good. The Shadow and Bone trilogy, I want to read so bad, specifically because I want to read the Six of Crows duology, and it pains me to say that it has been like 2 years since I read Shadow and Bone. I have them all on my TBR, they're all on my bookshelf, and I never want to pick them up. It never calls to me. I didn't think the first book was bad, but it's just like, it's not something that lives at the forefront of my mind, and for that reason, mid. It's mid. Because the first book was good. It's just something about the series just doesn't make me want to keep reading. Marked. Okay, so I read this series, I can't remember what it's called, but this whole series I read when I was in middle school and high school. My mom loves this series. We own the whole series. So she was like, oh my gosh, you should read this, because I think now that you're liking romantasy again, that you'd really like this. Also, I need to say, one thing to note is some of these are more paranormal than fantasy. I think paranormal is like werewolves and vampires and things that take place in like our world kind of, but with magic. There's rules between what makes something fantasy versus paranormal. I don't really understand them, so we're just lumping them all together. So I decided to sit down and reread Marked. People were so excited when I said I was going to, because it brings back so much nostalgia for people. And oof, it was not it. I found it so problematic. She was such a pick-me girl. The like tearing other women down, the references, it felt felt like a bullying in a book. And I did not enjoy it at all. Like, it actually offended me a few times, some of the things about like queer people they said. And I get that it was like a book of the times. Like, it used to be fine to say that's so gay and no one would bat an eye, but it gives me the ick. So for that reason, kindling. Actually, I didn't even keep the series on my bookshelf. I said, Mom, take these back because it makes me mad seeing them. So this one's a little bit hard, and that is the Crowns of Nyaxia series, I think it's called. Serpent and the Wings of Night. So some of these books in this series I have absolutely adored. I've eaten them up, and then other ones not so much. It makes it a little hard because there's books that I absolutely adored in this. It's a vampire series. We have all these different kingdoms. The vampires are all different in each one. I'm actually going to say no complaints, okay, maybe a few, because it is a good series, I think. There's just things that I personally would change, and books that I think are just not as interesting as the others. Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I'm not a romance girly, but Ali Hazelwood's romances, I eat them up. Oh my goodness. She writes a lovely science romance. I actually studied neuroscience in university, so it just, I don't know, makes me so happy. But Bride was not it for me. It was not it. It gave me the ick. The like interspecies vampire werewolf romance spice. No thank you. And I think that I should have DNF'd it, honestly. Fourth Wing. People love Fourth Wing. I like the dragons. I need you guys all to know that my dad right now is reading Fourth Wing. I find that hilarious. Book 1 and 2. Great. Book 3. No. So no complaints, but maybe a few, honestly. Sorry. Crescent City. Crescent City was the series that taught me that I don't actually enjoy fantasy that is set in like the city. You know what I mean? I don't know what that's called. Urban fantasy. Found actually the third book. I feel like it was all over the place. I don't think that the characters were kind of true to who they'd been in earlier books. Honestly, I should have DNF'd it. Each book is a long book, and I could have read something that I would have enjoyed better in that time. Throne of Glass, another Sarah J. Maas series. This one is so good. The last book, I think, is just amazing. I enjoyed doing the tandem read. I don't know, I think that this is a really good series, and it's gonna be screaming, crying, throwing up because it's so good. I think that it is Sarah J. Maas's best work, honestly. Keeper of Enchanted Rooms. So I read this on Kindle Unlimited. It is about a haunted house, basically. I don't know, there's something about it that's interesting. We have witches. It's pretty mid. I enjoyed it, but I don't think I want to read more of the series, honestly. The Veiled Kingdom was so spicy. Like, so incredibly spicy that I honestly don't know what to do with myself. I don't know, because I'm kind of intrigued about reading the second book in the series, and maybe I will at some point, but it's so spicy. And like, I don't know. Let's just say it's mid. Wow. Divine Rivals. Again, first book, so good. Second book, not so much. And it's hard because we're rating the series as a whole. I'm gonna say Divine Rivals. Mid. It's mid. I'm gonna make people mad. Powerless. People love this. People love this series. They love it. I read the first one and went, oh my god, what am I reading? And didn't like it at all. I did not like the writing. I did not like the characters. I didn't like it. I didn't like it so much so that I don't want to read the other books in the series. And I'm gonna say I should have DNF'd it. I should have. I thought multiple times while reading it I should DNF this, and I didn't. I regret it. Legends and Lattes. So if you like a cozy fantasy, it's very cozy. It's cozy, it's sapphic, it's so low stakes. It's so low stakes. So it's just about an orc who has stopped her time as an assassin, I think, and decides she's going to open a coffee shop. It gives you the cutest, most wholesome vibes. It's pretty good. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna surprise everyone and I'm gonna say no complaints. It was so cozy. Spookily yours. So this is again where we get into, is it paranormal, is it fantasy? I think it's technically paranormal. It's witches, it's Halloween, it's demons, it is kindling. I did not enjoy that book at all. One of the worst books I read in 2024. I wanted something that was festive for Halloween, and it was, but it wasn't good. So, nah, it's not good. Bonds That Bind Me, I think this series is called. Broken Bonds. I ate this up. It's reverse harem, which is not going to be for everybody, honestly. I didn't think it was going to be for me, but I don't know, I was intrigued by the concept. I think it's a 6-book series, and I gave every one of those books 5 stars. Looking back, is it 6 out of 5 stars? No, but solid 5 stars. I love this series. I just loved it. I loved all the characters, and it's going to be a screaming, crying, throwing up book series for me because, oh my god, it was good. If you're interested in reverse harem, which is one woman, multiple men, I don't know, it's good. I liked it. Okay, House of Ash and Shadow. It's called The Gilded City. I don't know, it's not a good name for the series. So the first book I loved because it's YA and it gave me The Summer I Turned Pretty, but make it fantasy. Give it some fae. I liked it. Then it went very downhill, and the 3rd book was horrendous in my opinion, and for that reason we're gonna burn the whole series. You can use it to light a fire. A Hunt So Wild and Cruel. So this is like there's 2 books that I read in this series. Hunt So Wild and Cruel. I forgot that this existed. No, I should have DNF'd. Probably should have DNF'd. So it's fantasy, very spicy, and it's based off of like Christmas stories. So one was based off of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Story, and the other was based off of The Nutcracker. I mean, I wanted some fantasy for Christmas time, and these are very dark and a little weird. I haven't thought about them since I read them. Little Fires Everywhere. I did not remember I read this. I remember nothing of it at all. I looked at like the synopsis and it sparked memories. I do remember reading it, but I forgot that it existed. It has not lived for a second in my mind since I finished it. Very forgettable. Belladonna is another series that people really like, and I didn't. I thought that the first one was fine. I haven't read the rest of the books in the series for this very simple reason. The first one, Belladonna, is on Kindle Unlimited. That's great. I love Kindle Unlimited. I get very mad when the whole series isn't on Kindle Unlimited. I went to read the next one because I was like, you know what, that was fine. It wasn't, because it wasn't all on Kindle Unlimited. So I should have DNF'd it, honestly, for that simple reason alone. A Game of Fate. So this, let's rearrange these. So let's start by doing A Touch of Darkness. So this is the Hades and Persephone series. It's a long series. I think there's like 4 books in it, maybe 5 books. And some of them were pretty good, some of them were not at all. And for that reason, I'm going to rate this series as, honestly, no complaints. I mean, it's a fine series. So again, we have a Greek mythology retelling. Hades is the god of the underworld. Persephone is the goddess of spring. It was a pretty intriguing storyline, but A Game of Fate is like the Game of God series. So that is just Hades' point of view. So the other one, the Hades and Persephone series, is actually just Persephone's point of view. I found it so much more interesting reading Hades' point of view, like exponentially more interesting, and for that reason, A Game of Fate and the whole series is screaming, crying, throwing up. So good. But actually, I'm gonna lower Hades and Persephone to just mid. But Game of Fate, but Hades' point of view, so good. I loved seeing more of the gods behind the scenes and what Hades was up to as a god, whereas Persephone lives her life more as a mortal. it just wasn't as interesting, wasn't as like fantasy-esque, you know? The Ever King and the Ever Queen. So this is a duology, and technically there's more books in the series, but they follow different characters. Oh my god, god tier. This is one of my favorite fantasy series I've ever read, and I don't know what about it makes it that good to me, but it's that good. So it is Pirate Fae, Viking Fae. We have Enemies to Lovers, and another series that I loved. So Bonded by Thorns is the first one. The series itself, I can't remember what it's called, but again, we have reverse harem. But what made me love this series so much, actively love it, because I've rated every book in it 5 stars, and there's more books coming out, and oh, I can't wait for them. There's not very many queer books on this, just because I can't find very many queer fantasy books. This one is reverse harem, so we have one girl and all of the princes. There's many, but the princes are also, some of them are also in relationships with each other, so there's like MLM romance as well, and I like that because that's obviously a lot queerer. It's queer. I love that. So this series is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I eat it up. It's so good, and it is god tier. It is 6 stars. The same universe as the Ever King is the Broken Kingdom series, and this one, I mean, it's pretty good. I'm honestly gonna rate it mid. 9 books, something crazy. Every 3 books follow a different character and relationship. They're kind of tied together, and it's good. It's good. Is it as good as the Ever King and the Ever Queen? No. She wrote the Broken Kingdom series first, and I think that her writing just improves drastically from like even relationship to relationship through the series. Like, I'm seeing how her writing is progressing, and she's getting to be a better writer. And so the Ever King, the Ever Queen was written after, and oh, they're so good. But the Broken Kingdoms, mid. Her Spell That Binds Me is sapphic. We are going to a boarding school for witches, a university. It's a standalone, which I love, and I'm gonna say screaming, crying, throwing up, because I am thirsty for queer representation. Like, I am thirsty for a sapphic romantasy. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies is pretty cozy to me, honestly, and I really enjoy the whole series. I've read the first 2 books in it. I know that there's no third, haven't gotten to it yet, haven't bought it, but the first 2, oh my gosh, so good. So it's kind of like our world in the early 1900s, but fairies are real, and we're following Professor Emily Wilde on her adventures, first to make an encyclopedia of all the fairies, and then second, can't spoil it, but it's good. And I'm gonna say no complaints. Like, it makes me happy. It's a good series. While Lies Beyond the Veil, I've actually read 2 books in this series, shockingly, because I remember nothing of either. I mean, when I read the synopsis and what it's about, like, oh yeah, I remember, but have I thought about it for 1 millisecond since I read either? No. Did I rate them poorly? No. I just have like 0 recollection and 0 want to read more. A Fading to Blood is a Norse romance, and I know that there's a second book coming out in the series this year, and it is pretty highly anticipated for me. I'm interested in reading it, but the first book was like kind of mid. Like, it was kind of just fine. It was fine. This Ravenous Fate was also honestly kind of mid. It's sapphic, it's vampires, it is set in Harlem in like, I think the early 1900s. It's interesting. Will I read the next book in the series? Probably, but it's pretty mid, honestly. And it's YA. Did I say that? And finally, there was no order to how these ended up being picked. We have When the Moon Hatched. Oh my god, I loved it. Screaming, crying, throwing up. It is dragons. I feel like people don't really like this series that much, or the first book anyway. I loved it. I ate it up. I ate it up. It was so good. I freaking loved it. Freaking loved it. Dragons in that book though versus Fourth Wing, completely different dragons. Dragons in like When the Moon Hatched are like your pets. They're cozy. They're like your little doggy. Versus in Fourth Wing, they're like your big baddie and you're kind of their sidekick, honestly. Am I surprised about this distribution? Not really. I mean, it's a pretty standard distribution, honestly. I stand behind it. So that was long-winded, but my ranking, tier ranking of every romantasy series that I have read so far, because I'm a sucker for romantasy, guys. Am I gonna read more soon? Probably, definitely, yes. I think I have one on the go right now, so there we go. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna end this here because this was long and rambly and a lot of information, so you don't want to hear me yap anymore. I'm sure of it. see you back here next week with another video. Bye!